that salad is on its last 5%, maybe 10% of its lifespan. The edges of the leaves already yellowing, the flavor is more fading. And if you try salad from our Raumgarten, which I invite anybody to do, it's a different story. It has nothing to do with each other.
Welcome to Startup Knockout. I'm your host, Timo Higgs. Today on the podcast, we have Daniel Bosman, CEO of Our Greenery, Urban Farming Made Simple. This was a really interesting conversation because he has created an extremely values-driven company. From salary transparency to building a community on top of his gardening platform, this is a very interesting one that you are not going to want to miss. Daniel, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man.
And we're going to first get into a little bit about you specifically before we get into your company, because you have had kind of a crazy life story up to this point. So you lived in both Taiwan and China. You have survived 3 near-death experiences, which is, I'm sure, a harrowing story. And you also started, amongst others, one of the most massive surfboard-making companies in the world. So I'm curious, with all that behind you, what made you want to start this business specifically now?
The way how China, with its fast-paced growth, deals with people and the environment left quite a big mark on me. So eventually I decided to, start more companies with sustainable materials, which in the beginning I brought into Pergamon Museum or Miro or Belvedere in Vienna. And that made me more of an entrepreneur with a focus on sustainability. And now since 2 years, it's Our Greenery. I think the biggest impact I can do as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and anybody who's been to one of these big Chinese megacities understands that there's not a lot of green in these cities. It's a lot of concrete, it's a lot of cars, it's a lot of people, but not a lot of trees and plants and beautiful nature.
Yes, I mean, next to this surfboard factory, which was built out of red bricks, it had a little bit of an Abbey Road feeling. It was really a lovely place. Next to it was a beautiful hill covered with rainforest, and I went jogging there almost every day during the time when I was in China. And it had like beautiful caterpillars, praying mantis, huge butterflies. I mean, that's the south of China, which used to be like a jungle, right? And 1 month from while I was in Taiwan again, I came back to China, and the complete hill was taken off. It was flattened. Every tree was cut down. And then eventually, over this time of 2 months, they built their container factory, a shipping container factory. So you have to imagine that while the factory with its red bricks and its frangipani trees outside, which is my favorite tree with a beautiful scent, has changed to a massive industrial area where when the month of pickup for all the shipping containers was, you felt like in Lagos City. It was like really 20 meters high shipping containers on both sides of the road at one point. And it has nothing to do with what originally we set out to do.
Yeah. Well, nature's got to get out of the way for growth sometimes, and nowhere is that more true than in China. But let's talk about urban farming a little bit. This can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people. I know I have a vision in my head of what I think urban farming is, but really I don't know. Can you give us a quick rundown of what urban farming means to you and to Our Greenery?
Urban farming can be done in 2 ways. One facility, large production, which holds a problem in our mindset, I believe. We always think that if we produce something in a very, very large quantity, it will become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and therefore the value of itself can be reapproached. So if I have a plant that I produce 1 million times and it costs me at the end only 30 cents, and 1/3 of it goes bad, I'm okay with it, because I don't have any emotional connection to it. And I don't say we need to talk to our basil plants. I do sometimes, but I don't think all of us have to do. But the alternative is to find it, to create more small brackets of production, and I think this is exactly what we do. And I think it's a better way because the people that grow food always have a better connection to what they do. It's not a mass produced item anymore. It's your food that you're producing.
And this is what you're helping people do. So is this more, a B2C sort of product where, because I've seen the tables with plants inside them that are very stylish, they're very fashionable, but also functional. I imagine, where people can grow food inside them. This is your main target.
What I believe in is that we should produce food where we need it. You know, even if we produce outside of Berlin in Brandenburg in a huge facility, it still needs to be transported. It still goes under the economical perspective of mass production. But if you're producing food there where you really need it, and that is of course B2C as well, you know, like in your home, if you want to make sure you know what you're eating because it grew in your living room or in your kitchen, and you are aware of the footprint, of the CO2 footprint of its transport and so on and so forth, the reduction of food waste. But I mean, we have clients such as hotels, hospitals, offices, restaurants, of course. And all of these are having, of course, the same demand, that they want to have a great quality produce at its nearest availability, so to say.
Sure. And that makes a lot of sense too, because, well, the closer it is, the fresher it's going to be. It's going to taste better. It's going to be healthier. These are all really important things.
We have one investor who just tried our food and invested due to that. So the flavors are uncomparable, like especially if you buy something from the discounter, because what you're actually buying there is a salad, but that salad is on its last 5%, maybe 10% of its lifespan. The edges of the leaves already yellowing, the flavor is more fading. And if you try salad from our Raumgarten, which I invite anybody to do, it's a different story. It has nothing to do with each other.
Yep. And my mom has had a garden her entire life, and we always noticed that, particularly with tomatoes. The tomatoes were always smaller, but so much more flavorful. So I get this. I definitely get it. Now, Our Greenery, from first look, looks to be a very values-driven business. And you've given us a little bit of background from how you came to those values, but can you give us kind of an idea of why this is so important for the business?
I think that there are several things to it. For me, for example, like I'm the founder of Our Greenery, so I follow my own values based on my experience. As you said, that's not really like how to say. Like the reason why I founded Our Greenery might be very well the same reason why somebody wants to work for Our Greenery, right? So we are a startup founded in Brandenburg, and we are constantly being invited to events by different governmental institutions to teach companies, KMUs, like SMEs, I think it's in English, how to approach and how to gain employees for their company, right? Which is one of the aspects. For us, it's really not that difficult to acquire talent. We have an amazing team due to the fact that one of the major parts why they're working at Our Greenery is that they're value driven. And I think the days are numbered now in which the vast majority of students that leave university are only wanting to work in a company for the paycheck. Money is important. It keeps our society going round, and it's also a way of showing appreciation, right? It's one of the ways.
Sure. So the purely cynical economic view is it helps you with recruiting, but more than that, probably helps people do their best work because they actually want to be a part of it. They're not just there for the paycheck. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's one thing. And then I think we are using very, very modern methods of a goal setting, responsibility, hierarchy. Like all our employees in full-time earn the same, right? If we get the next funding round or if we hit a very big milestone in our sales, we will increase that, but all of us then will have an equal raise. At the same time, my brother and I, we are the managing directors of the company, the founders, the first founders. We earn the least. So, and that's clear communicated. Everybody knows that, right? The second thing that I think is really, really important to it is that we are setting goals together with every employee. It's part of the onboarding, right? Like we set a frame with a goal inside. The goal we are both setting. And then we are both talking about how to reach this goal and when to reach it, and what happens if we reach it and what happens if we don't reach it. But I love that way because you get such a commitment and you set the goals together. And at the end of the day, I'm then more your assistant, right? Because if we both set a goal and it's a big issue if you don't reach it. Mm-hmm. But if you're telling me like 3 months in advance, hey, Daniel, I need this and this and that to reach that goal, I will make sure that you will have that. Or I will, of course, evaluate first. But then, like, if it's a Gucci bag, maybe not. But if it's some additional tool that you need, something like that, let's talk about it, right? And that's also, like, I think more value driven because you're involved. We involve nature in our products. We involve the concepts of nature, but we also involve humans in the experience, and that's in the company the same as in the product.
That's really interesting. So this values driven goes a lot deeper into your company than I really realized. I want to talk about this salary transparency aspect. We'll get back to our greenery and the product a little bit later, but this really interests me because I haven't seen many places that do this type of thing where can everybody see what everybody else is earning? And you said everybody knows that you and your brother as managing directors earn less.
My brother and I, we hold the lion's share of the lion part of the shares. You know, we know that every employee works with us also, of course, on his or her personal goals, but also, of course, to some extent on the goals that we set, right? And therefore, there's appreciation. And we're not at the point where I can pay myself like a salary of a normal managing director of like a normal company. So yeah, we pay ourselves little, but that's the way how you commit. This is the way how you stay hungry. I believe, you know, the abbreviation in a way.
And why the transparency? Why let everybody know what everybody else is earning?
I, of course, make with each co-founder that comes on board an individual deal, because that depends on the negotiation of shares and their monthly salary. They always get, like, for me, at the end of the day, you want to simplify your processes, right? Like for every full-time employee, I don't need to negotiate. This is what I do. This is what you get. This is what's on the table. Mm-hmm. You know, like, and that makes it so easy. It makes it so easy. In that moment, people feel trust because I think there's a transparency. They feel like, okay, I get you, Daniel. I believe in you that you will be able to rise the next round and that we will all earn a little bit more. That works well for us.
Yeah, I like that idea. I've seen a few experiments with salary transparency at varying levels, and I find this movement to be a very interesting thing to watch in real time. But let's get back a little bit more to product, your service, and your customers and community. Specifically community. I know that we talked about it being a goal of yours to build a community around the product. So having your customers be able to speak to each other and give tips to each other. Explain to me a little bit more about why the community is going to be important for Our Greenery and what you hope to achieve with it.
Tischgarten as Raumgarten. You know, like for those who are not familiar yet, shame on you with these products. Tischgarten is out of ceramics, and it's an analog table version of a small garden, basically, in which you can grow microgreens and other superfoods such as wheatgrass and so on and so forth. Big trend on social media for your skin and your nails, for both genders, of course. But what I love about it is that it's an open source system, basically. So we provide you with seeds that we tested, and you can grow them. They have a quality promise. They have a success promise. That's great for those who just want to use a product and our services in a more simple way. But we have also many customers who started to use their own seeds in the Tischgarten. And there's one customer called Melanie. I absolutely adore her. She sent me like almost every week a picture of different seeds that she tried in the Tischgarten, and they work. And that has two major benefits. One is, of course, that we learn very quickly what else is possible in our product. And secondly, that makes everybody else able to use different products, different seeds and different kinds in our product. And the Raumgarten undergoes the same principles. It's an open source system. Most people will, like, this is the diversity that we managed in the product. Like, we have like one restaurant, it's an Italian restaurant, and they just want to grow basil and rucola, and they want to show their customers that they are more sustainable. Awesome, right? Makes sense, logic. The second restaurant is a fine dining place here not far from me, and they grow like healing herbs from South America, and they cook with that, and they make tea with it. So, and obviously we don't have them in our general portfolio, right? They just get their own seeds, they get blank plugs from us, and they grow their own stuff. And it's just crazy. It's amazing. So what that leads to eventually is all these Raum gardeners, we call them. They don't know, but we call them like that. They're all out there, and they're all having then their Raumgarten, and they have their app, and they're growing their own experiments, and they share them over the app with us and the community. And that will just lead to a swarm intelligent way of growing more and more different varieties with our products. And that's amazing. That's fantastic. And another addition to this, eventually you at your home will be able to use your Raumgarten, and you can just press a button in the app, and then you put your Raumgarten live, and then you can basically see all the other Raumgärten that are live, like on a map, right? You can ping people because you can see what they're growing. I mean, the good stuff, the tasty stuff, whatever. And then you can ping them and you say, hey, do you want to exchange one coriander, or what's it called in English? Wait a second. Cilantro for basil. Yeah, and I don't want to have 2 cents on that interaction. I don't want to be. I want to see this community grow and be organic with each other.
I think this is really interesting that your product is almost becoming a platform. So the starting point is the kit that you give them, and they can use that, but then they start using it for other things, for whatever they want to grow. And then they can share that experience with the entire community using this app. I think it's a fantastic idea. And I know, I already know my mom would love it, because she doesn't get to garden enough in the horrible Canadian winter. So maybe one day if you start selling them in Canada, I'll get her one for Christmas.
You know, that's the thing, you know, like I think it's so important to offer a true value, and values are, for example, experiences. And yeah, our community will, like, they're in, how do you say that, they're in store for a lot of great experiences on flavors and colors and more healthy experience, you know. And I think that is a fruity ground to really create a good community, because everybody can pick what they really want, and it's not enforced on them. It's not advertised, monetarized. It's a true experience.
And the better you can increase the user experience of whatever it is that you're offering, without trying to catch a fee here and a fee here and a fee here, I think people react really positively to that these days, because we get dinged with fees in so many different places nowadays. It's really refreshing to find a company that's not trying to make profit everywhere.
It's a great filter too. I mean, we are in the midst now of raising our seed rounds. So any investors out there that hear this now and wanna invest into like true impact, just contact. But it's a filter, you know. I don't want to have a shareholder who's just looking at sales. Sales to me are super important, because there's no community without sales. There's no true impact without sales. I understand. We are using, like, we have to interpret the way how our society runs a little bit. I think capitalism is a great beneficiary for many people. It changed our society in many ways to the better. But there are also some negative aspects, and that's a filter for us too. You know, who's investing in Our Greenery? It's not going to be the person who's sitting at home and counting money every day. That's for sure.
All right, let's back up just a little bit and talk about an impact you're having in a different way. So you are also a startup coach and a mentor. And one cool fact I learned about you is that you have won every pitch competition that you have been a part of. So for any of the startups that are listening to this, can you give them maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 of your top tips for pitching that you see most startups just not doing enough of?
All right. I think my first advice is get drunk. The second one is don't prepare. And no, I'm just kidding.
Jeez, I thought you were serious.
Don't do that. I think, first of all, I I think preparation is super, super important. And that not only means that you look at your materials and that you look at your pitch deck and you're learning everything about it. So, because the worst thing you can do is like actually having a pitching competition, but you're not looking at the audience. You have to look at the screen behind you in order to know which slide is coming. So know it by heart. While you're fundraising is also the time when you're pitching. So you will get all the time feedback from investors. Be sure to not alter your pitch deck just before you go on stage, like work with the same pitch deck for a while, have it at heart, know what you're talking about. I focus always on one person in the beginning in the audience that I talk to. So if this is recorded, I ideally pick somebody that is closer to the camera, and I already before I'm being called on stage, I ideally try to have some interaction with this person. And if it's just holding the eyes, waiting for her or him to look over and just wave or smile, because it takes you out of your mind, And then you go on stage, you keep eye contact, you sneak a little smile in, like while you're saying something. And yeah, I think these are two major things, like focus on a person in the audience in the beginning until you feel like the room is following you, the room is listening to what you say. And the third one is not pacing. Like give yourself a little break here and there, have a breather, and eventually you will get better at it, and then you can even use it a bit to your advantage. If you have a special point to make before you say the final thing in the sentence, hold the moment. It creates immediately more attention. It's more engaging also.
Those are pretty good. Have you ever used a presentation coach or a pitch coach or anything like that to help you? Because those are some pretty professional level tips.
Is it?
Yeah, I used to do presentation coaching, actually.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, cool. No, I no, it's more of an organic experience also here. You're learning very quickly. Like, for example, the last pitching event was from Business Angel Club Berlin-Brandenburg, and we won the wild card on a competition, and then we were invited to the last of the year pitching event where all the other winners were invited. And yeah, we also won that one, and that never happened before, that somebody wins the wild card and then wins the main event. So that was really cool. But I won the wild card, and I was the absolute outsider there because we didn't apply for it, like we just through some chance we were suddenly at this event. I could only win that night,
But let's pull back from the coaching and the pitching. Those are some really great tips. And we're in our last section now, which is our win, lose, or draw game. Daniel, are you ready to play?
I am always ready to play.
Fantastic. Okay, so here's your first one. Win, lose, or draw. Urban farming products appearing in major supermarkets in Germany, if they aren't already.
I will go with win, although that is a little bit against our own business model. I believe that the more products are produced locally, that's generally a better world, for sure. What I said prior about mass production items, our loss of our loss of appreciation for it, I think that stands, and I think that's an issue. And but yeah, maybe it's a combination. For example, tomatoes. Tomatoes are large scale produced. Many people ask us all the time if we can grow tomatoes in the Raumgarten. It's really difficult for vertical farming to grow tomatoes in the system as we are using it. But we are now testing 20 different variations, and it looks very, very promising that we actually can do it, which is amazing. But tomatoes are really efficiently produced at the moment. I think it's more important to grow like exotic herbs, salads, and so on and so forth. I mean, in the Raumgarten, we have 9 different salads. If you're producing everything in large scale, which, for example, InFarm does or did, I think they offer 2 or 3 different kinds of salads. But with the Raumgarten, you can already produce 9 because it's not only about size; it's also about flavor and so on. So yeah, I think it's a win.
Clear answer there. I like that. So next one. Win, lose, or draw. Inflation causing more and more people to grow kitchen gardens or Raumgartens, that sort of thing.
Definite win. We can feel it. We have a lot of customers coming right now, and we always ask them, how did they get in touch with us, or how did they find us? And the second one is always, what is their key motivator? And for many people, it's cost reduction. And that's actually with the Raumgarten, for example, it's also possible. It's the amortization is after roughly 14 months, depending on what you're growing. So you're investing 2,890 euros, but you're growing every month produce that is like cheaper than if you buy it in an organic farm store, right?
That is a fast payback period, though. That's faster than I would have expected. So that's a good tip.
Yeah.
All right, our last one: win, lose, or draw. Indoor gardens becoming a fashion piece in addition to serving a function.
We also see that already. Yeah, it's again a win because we have already some companies, and I can tell, and I don't judge, that putting the Raumgarten in the lobby to also place a statement there, right? They're communicating that they're taking more care of their employee, or that they're more sustainable. And the Raumgarten is like, I'm the concept and product designer of the product, so for me it's super important that it's an interior design object as well. It has the measurements of a sideboard compared to like many people said, it needs to be the same size as a fridge because like a 60 times 60 or a wash machine. But then the only place you can place it is actually the kitchen. But what happens if you move, and it doesn't fit in the kitchen anymore? Then you can put it in the hallway, or you can put it in the living room. And of course, I as a product designer want to see it there. So yes, definitely.
So that is 3 wins in a row. It's starting to look like your pitch competition record.
Indeed.
Okay, and that brings us to the end of our episode. Daniel, thanks so much for coming on. This was very informative, and it's making me hungry. So I guess you've achieved your goal here.
Yeah, come on over. We have some lunch together anytime.
Next time I'm in Berlin. Thanks everyone for listening and watching today. Be sure to keep your eye on Our Greenery because they are fundraising. So if you're interested, go ahead and get in touch. Startup Knockout Germany will be going to 1 episode every 2 weeks now, so we can bring you more videos, smaller ones, about what's happening in the German startup scene. Subscribe on YouTube to get them all. Take care, everyone.